Thank you, Matt. Well, America can't seem to escape its race issues as another battle looms over affirmative action, this time in higher education. Right now, 3 cases are in the courts, any of which could go to the Supreme Court.
Joining us to talk about the impact of those cases is Professor Yohuru Williams, Associate Professor of History and Director of Black Studies at Fairfield University. Welcome, Professor.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Well, let me lay this out. You've got 3 cases. Michigan's ban on affirmative action in public universities. You got race used in admissions at the University of Texas at Austin, and a challenge to California's Prop 209, which outlawed race-conscious admissions in 1996.
Correct.
All of this centered around higher education. How did that become the center of this issue?
Well, it really has been since 1978 in the Bakke decision. And because education has been so competitive, particularly higher education, and the opportunities and the prizes at stake are so significant, it's really remained the battleground for the last almost 30 years. We also have seen significant movement in terms of cases in programs that involve government contracts, but higher education is primarily the battleground.
That's number one. You know, we've kind of seen this move from the workplace to the colleges. You would think the workplace, where the dollar is at stake, would be the highest place, but obviously not.
Very true, and it's interesting because when you look at law schools and professional schools in particular, and that's what one of the Michigan cases was, the law school case, again, the competitive nature of those programs is what, again, makes it such a hot-button issue.
So where does it stand right now?
Well, it's interesting. The real concern is that in 2003, when this came up before, you had a swing vote on the court in Sandra Day O'Connor, and she voted with the more liberal minority to maintain affirmative action programs.
Now the court's changed. Bollinger?
Exactly. The makeup of the court obviously has changed, and so now we're looking at a very conservative block in the 4 justices, Justice Roberts, Justice Scalia, Justice Thomas, and Justice Alito, who always vote conservative and who likely will vote against, consistent with what they did in 203, against affirmative action, and the swing vote being Justice Kennedy, and he's the X factor. Will he maintain the precedent established by the Grutner decision in 2003, or will this very conservative block ban affirmative action?
So what happens if it does?
Well, it's going to be very interesting because all of these institutions are going to have to revisit this whole question of racial preferences. The interesting thing in the 2003 cases is that in the undergraduate case, what the court essentially said is that we're throwing out the notion that you can establish quotas, but we do appreciate that law schools can use race as one factor that they take into consideration. If the court were to ban outright affirmative action, the question then becomes, how do universities create the racial parity, the diversity that they claim is so essential to creating a conducive educational environment, while at the same time walking in this thin line that the court will establish by saying you can't establish racial preferences.
I mean, it's ironic that we use that word nowadays, racial preference, when the problem was it was always a racial preference on the part of the schools and the workplace, and now, you know, we should be talking about equal access, and yet we're talking about preferences. I mean, does that surprise you that the word game has changed the whole picture?
I think it's very interesting when you look at the history of this in the context of the history of the nation. So in 1896, in the case of Plessy versus Ferguson, that established segregation, you've got the sole dissenter, John Marshall Harlan, saying our Constitution is colorblind and neither knows nor tolerates classes among its citizens. And ironically, because of more than a century of discrimination, these affirmative action entitlement programs have been necessary to essentially correct the injustice that was done to women and minorities. And that's another of the fallacies and why this remains such a hot-button issue, is that people mostly associate affirmative action programs with the African-American community in particular.
Now, do you think there'll ever be a time when we won't need that, when it will be fair for all, you know?
Well, it's interesting because in 2003, part of what Sandra Day O'Connor said is that she foresaw 25 years where we would no longer need affirmative action programs, entitlement programs. The majority signed along with her, with some of the justices signing along, but also saying they thought the 25 years was premature. When you look at where we are now in terms of the nation, some people would suggest you've got an African-American president, a Latina on the Supreme Court. Maybe we have moved in a position where we don't need these programs. But for the vast majority of Americans, the question remains, can you be sure that we'll be able to create the kind of diversity that's necessary for America to function in the way that it's traditionally functioned, with immigrants and minorities being an essential part of, you know, our commercial as well as our intellectual pursuits.
You mentioned something interesting, the stereotype is that African Americans generally are the beneficiaries of an affirmative action, when it actually is white females who are the biggest beneficiaries. But let me ask you this. Is America unique in this ongoing war over affirmative action? I mean, we haven't seen this in Europe and in Asia, or maybe we're not paying attention, but it seems like we're unique in that regard.
No, very much so, and I think it again ties to our history and the history of immigration in this country, and also the third rail in American politics, which continues to be race. The legacy of slavery looms over most discussions, and in a lot of ways, what this is an extension of the questions that were left unresolved by the Civil Rights Movement, one of which is, well, you've got a Civil Rights Act and a Voting Rights Act, but how do you rectify years of injustice? Affirmative action was created to try to do that, right. But it's always, now the question becomes, is this truly a meritocracy, or are we extending benefits to people because of historic injustices? Well, there's got to be a happy medium, and the court, unfortunately, hasn't found that yet.
All right, we'll see if they are able to do it. Professor, thanks much for joining us. Appreciate
Always
it.
great to see you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.